What is up, guys? Bradley here. This is Bradley Talks Money. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider subscribing. We like to talk about finances here, and we like to make sure that you are going to be on the right track to investing in your financial future. And before we get too far into this video, Blossom has sent me something in the mail. Stay tuned to the end to see what it is. Growing up, I was lucky enough that amongst my family, finances were a common topic of conversation. We were never shy to talk about financial goals or investing or the best ways to utilize money. I'm very lucky that I grew up that way because it instilled the mentality in me from an early age that money is a tool that gives you the opportunity to live the life that you always want. My mom was a CPA, and my dad got in early at a tech startup that ended up changing the world. So that gave them the opportunity to retire quite early and showed me what a healthy relationship with finances could really look like. The more wealth that you had, the more time you could have. Having my parents around growing up was evidence of that. Retirement for my parents didn't necessarily mean playing golf or sitting at home. They pursued other businesses where they could help mentor others, get their finances in order, and figure out how to get their financial life under control. I've always had a lot of respect for money, and I've always been fascinated and intrigued by it. Growing up, I was always that kid running around to payphones checking for quarters that got left behind, or looking through yard sales for stuff that I could sell online. Having this mentality instilled in me at such a young age was incredibly impactful in my life. It gave me a different perspective of how I viewed the world, how I viewed money, and how I viewed what my future would look like. Personally, it never made sense to me to take on a large amount of debt to get a university education. I'd rather just spend the 4+ years in the workforce not only earning money, but gaining that valuable work experience that so many jobs are looking for these days. Given my knowledge of myself and my personality and who I was, I knew that I could succeed without needing all the fancy degrees. With a high school diploma, I hit the workforce and found myself in jobs that I could learn and grow my talents, which would help me pursue bigger and better careers in the future. I started out in some manual labor jobs, but I eventually found myself becoming the manager of a Lego store. Around this time, I actually got engaged to my high school sweetheart. We needed to prepare ourselves for our future together. Me hearing that investing was one of the best options for us to grow our wealth, we decided that that was the route that we wanted to take. So in 2015, I went to my bank and I sat down with a financial advisor, and we walked through your very standard risk tolerance profile, and they determined what type of investing I should be in, and that was kind of that. I ended up giving them as much money as I could at the time and continued to give them money. I had no idea what it was in, no idea what kind of fees I was paying. I just knew that I was told, if you put your money to work for you, you'll get better returns. Now this is what I acknowledge as my first big investing mistake. I ended up emptying my tax-free savings account all the way to zero so that I could buy a car and buy a wedding. An argument could be made that the car was necessary for me to take my job, and the argument could definitely be made that the wedding was well worth it. But that being said, I don't know that it was the best idea to completely drain my investments and set myself back. After getting married, my wife and I found ourselves moving into our first apartment together. We found this very gross, dingy basement apartment that was incredibly cheap rent, and it gave us the best opportunity to build our savings quickly. It was time to buckle down and save up for the next thing. We both had a plan that we only wanted to live in this apartment for about a year, and then we were going to hit the real estate market and find a place of our own. Now, life isn't without setbacks. 2019 rolls around, and partway through the year, I end up losing my job. I'm 23 years old, we have rent and bills to pay, and it was time to really get to work. Now, I've always known that my personality can take some getting used to. It's also been one of my best assets. Knowing myself and knowing how to sell myself, I was able to land myself in a job interview that, frankly, I really didn't have any business getting. And I ended up landing this job. At my new job, I was tasked with organizing and managing the finances of small businesses to help them succeed in the future. Now, with the new job opportunity came increased amount of money, and that was amazing for us. We took as much of that as we could, we piled it back into savings, back into investments, opened up a bunch of GICs, and we did everything that we could to put our money back to work for us. After being in that apartment for only a year, we found ourselves in a position to accomplish our goals of moving out and entering the real estate market with a sizable down payment. We took what savings we had in our investments and whatnot, and after not learning my lessons the first time, once again, emptied the tax-free savings account, emptied our investments, took a large chunk of our savings, and put it towards a 25% down payment on a condo. Now, this was in 2020. The markets had just crashed, and I wasn't really aware of what was going on. I just knew that there was money in my investments. I needed it for this property, so let's sell everything. Thankfully enough, it worked out pretty well. We got this condo. We moved in, and we were incredibly happy to see the progress in our lives. When a friend came to me and said,
"Hey, what do you think about this stock? Do you think it's going to go up in the future?"
I was so confused. My friend was not necessarily financially literate or had a large amount of financial success, but yet he was investing in the stock markets on his own. I'd always been intrigued by the idea, but I had thought that you needed large amounts of money and you needed the certain tools that you could only access through having the right connections to people, and it was expensive, and I never thought that it was practical for someone like me. But after having the conversation with him, he actually ended up showing me WealthSimple, and immediately the fire was ignited because I saw that learning how to invest would be the best thing for me to do for my finances and one of the best options for achieving our long-term financial goals. Since I knew that if I wanted to invest, I had to do it right and do it in a safe and effective way, I needed to teach myself. So I started to read, I started to listen to podcasts, consume YouTube content, whatever it would take. I needed to learn, so at all times I made sure that I was absorbing positive content that would help me succeed in the future. Halfway through 2021, I'm 25 years old. My wife and I were lucky enough to be blessed with a pregnancy. The downside to this was our 2-bedroom condo wasn't really big enough, although it did have 2 bedrooms. I was using the 1 bedroom as an office at the time. We knew that long term, this condo just wasn't gonna cut it. Now, after my son started to grow, started to crawl, we knew that we were very cramped for space and we needed to move on to the next thing. Housing market had taken off quite a bit. We were in a position where we could actually look for a new home. We had enough in savings. I had put a ton into investments, and we were very happy with where we were financially at the time. There we were, a little bit more than a year in our condo, once again hitting the road looking for that next real estate opportunity for us. We ended up finding this house that I'm currently in right now, and it was an amazing opportunity for us because it was close to my workplace and it gave us way more space, being a house rather than a condo, having a great backyard, great space, great neighborhood. It was everything that we wanted. After learning my lesson the first 2 times, I knew that I didn't want to empty my tax-free savings account. So we budgeted and figured out how much we could afford in a house and what that would mean for what we needed to get if we wanted to sell our condo. Now, thankfully enough, we were at the peak of the 2021 market. We were able to sell our condo and make more than 100% return on our initial down payment. And we were able to leverage that into the next property. We didn't have to put any additional cash. We were just able to take the equity out of our condo and put it into our house. Now, in a perfect world, we would have ideally liked to keep the condo to use as a rental unit, but given how rapidly our equity had grown in this piece of property, it was the best case scenario for us to take everything out and just move it into the house. And that brings us to today. I'm 27 years old. I'm married to the love of my life. We have a son together. We were able to purchase a $750,000 home, and that's all with nothing but a high school diploma. I hope that from my story you gain some confidence and motivation in the fact that it is possible. If you get your finances in order and you set the proper goals, you can easily achieve these things. When we talk about our future, it's important to continue to set goals for what that next achievement can be. For us, it was the goal of getting a condo, then getting a house. Now it's the goal of filling our tax-free savings accounts and my son's RESP. After that, I hope to be in a position where my wife can actually retire around the age of 35, and myself, I can retire by the age of 45. If you stuck around to the end of the video, well, it's time to see what Blossom sent me in the mail. Are you ready? Look at that. Very cool. Let's try it on. Looks pretty good. Thanks, guys. And the card, thank you for joining the community, helping Blossom. We're so grateful to have you here. Congrats on the stellar month from the Blossom team. Now, I hope from this video that you can take some inspiration out of my story and apply it to your life. Just because of your age or your financial status, it's not too late to get your finances in order, turn your life around, and achieve the financial goals that you've always had. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, and stay safe out there.